Welcome to the Motivation Without the Hype podcast with your host, Jez Perez. He's an author, high-performance coach, and motivational speaker. This show brings you inspiring messages and interviews to unleash your greatness in life and in business. So let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Motivation Without the Hype podcast show. My name is Jez Perez, a former procrastinator into an action taker. We bring you inspirational messages and interviews, including motivational insights, tips, principles, and proven strategies that you can take action without the hype in unleashing your greatness in life and in business. Now, we appreciate you plugging within us, spending time as well, and we have a very special guest, a fellow Aussie from the Gold Coast. I'm also a Brisbaneite, so I'm really pumped to have her on the show. Her name is Annette. She is an award-winning writer and PR specialist, which sometimes still surprises her because the only award she's ever won was a Top Dog Achievement Award in grade 2. Losing her cushy corporate comms role, she had to reinvent herself, stepping out from behind the keyboard to build her own PR agency. Using her print journalism and corporate communication skills, she works with entrepreneurs and businesses to build Googlicious, I love that, that's a really cool word, profiles by sharing their stories across multiple channels, winning them awards and getting them featured in the media. Annette's considered the go-to for all things business storytelling, award submissions, writing, and assisting business leaders establish themselves as authorities in their field. Annette, welcome to the show.
Jez, thanks for having me. Gee, I sound a bit of all right there.
Yeah. Look, guys, I'm really pumped, and I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days. And Annette, she is a fireball, and so much value to give to her clients, and we're so really excited just to hear what she does. So, Annette, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, look, who I am, that's a really deep question for this time of the night. But it's basically during the day, I whack on my superhero storytelling cape.
Love it.
And I work with clients writing the media releases, business awards, social media posts, grant applications, and look, anything to do with words. I take I've been a journalist for over, 35 years.
Wow. So
I take the skills that I learn in journalism and I help people tell their stories, like really tell their stories, not just, hey, this is a business, this what it does. Like get to the heart of what people do because, as you know and I know, people do business with people, not businesses. And the more you can build know, like, and trust, the more likelihood you have of, connecting and actually sealing the deal. So that's what I do. I tell people stories and I find lots of wonderful places to tell them.
Do you find it's a challenge for them to tell their stories personally, like to be at a vulnerable state? Do you find that most cases that clients of yours and businesses just go through the shallow? How do you go deeper and really work and really craft a story that comes out with ooziness of just like, wow, I never thought of that story before. It just came out.
Oh, you've hit the nail on the head. And looking like it's across all demographics, all genders. It's not just one gender or the other. Like a lot of people say, women, they have a real, hard time telling their stories. In my experience, it's 99.9% of people have a trouble telling their real story because we've, particularly if you've grown up in Australia, is that we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome. Yeah. And when you stick your head up outside the crowd, someone's there to bat it down and tell you to shut up and stop being a show-off. You're too big for your britches, which just basically means that, people are jealous of other people's success. So if you grow up in a culture like that where you're not encouraged to talk about yourself, where you're not encouraged to, embrace the things that you've accomplished and achieved in your life, it's really, really hard to then go, I'm going to go and be vulnerable and real across social media because, that's the new thing that I'm going to do. So how do you get around that? Look, that's the $1 million question, but how I get around that is that I ask lots of questions and I ask enough questions that people get comfortable with me, that they trust me to tell their story. So I always find the magic marks around 45 minutes in a conversation where you've done the cursory, shallow stuff that you mentioned, the features and benefits and, all of that, light trimming stuff that we have in business, to where they get to the point where you can say, okay, well, tell me about a time in your childhood. It's almost like I'm a psychologist without the training. I'm not fixing anybody's problems, but I'm certainly making them feel comfortable and valued enough that their story will have an impact on somewhere at some stage of their business journey. And with, there's the people out there who are watching and looking and listening and paying attention to what you're doing, is they really want to hear that stuff, because that's how we connect emotionally, connecting through those stories. So it is hard. I won't say it's easy, but I'm definitely grateful every day that I started life as a journalist, because I'm just a professional sticky beak.
Now, speaking of awards, you specialize in this industry, particularly with your journalism, and it's great to have that experience and the skills that you attain over the years. Leveraging on successful stories and putting wins in a business, what should people focus? Those who are listening in the podcast show, you're probably an entrepreneur or a small business owner, but you're on this journey as well, and you're still thinking about how I can, showcase who I am and what my business is. When it comes to stories, what should they focus first? Should they focus on their brand, or should they focus on getting the right story to broadcast who they are in their business?
Jez, I'm going to be really boring, and I'm going to say,
please.
have a plan.
Yeah.
Have a plan. So many people go into business, even, you look from the outside and you go, wow, they're really successful. But when you start asking them questions like, do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a brand guide? Do you know who your target audience is? Do you know what channels your target audience are on, so that you're getting your messages to them? So many people go, oh, no, it's all in my head. And it's like, well, it's no good in your head unless you get that out of your head and you can map out where your business is going, what you want to achieve and where you want to get to. It's really hard to use something like business awards or PR to be able to build your profile. So the first thing they should focus on is getting a marketing plan or some type of business plan. It doesn't have to be, the bells and whistles. It can be a really simple one-page document of going, I understand this is who I'm speaking to. I understand this is what's important to them. These are their problems. I'm going to give them the solutions, and I'm going to do it across these channels, and then stick with it. So in terms of what they do next, so once they've got the boring bit out of the way, which is the plan bit, and I think that's why so many of us don't do it. Like, writing a plan really isn't that exciting. The next thing that you need to do is start thinking about your hero story. What is it that will attract people to work with you? What insights can you give them into what you do, how you do it, why you do it, where you do it, and who you do it for, so that they can start forming that, emotional connection with you, and then start looking for some really, what I call low-hanging fruit, that opportunity to publish content and get your story out onto, different channels, because you love that word Googlicious.
I love that.
I don't know whether I made it up, but
So
I'm going to
cool.
own it. I'm going to own it. So Googlicious is how much content can you get online organically, so that Google looks at you and goes, wow, this person, they know what they're talking about. All of these people are talking to them. They're on podcasts, they're writing articles, they're being featured in the media, they're winning awards. So if you can do that, you can start dropping those breadcrumbs. So as people get to know you and like you and trust you, and they go, they're going to go, who's Jez Perez? They go and Google you. This is where the Googliciousness comes in, and you just dominate pages and pages and pages of Google, because you've had that plan, you've been methodical about rolling it out, and you've been persistent, and you've been, you may feel a little uncomfortable about telling your story, but you understand that without your story, is that people are just going to look at you as just another business.
Yeah, and
who wants that?
Exactly, and I think that you hit the nail in the coffin again. Is having that hero's journey. A lot of people do have that hero's journey, but I think they're just a bit fearful in a way where, the fear of unknown. It's like, if I go public. And sometimes they get stuck. It's like, I can do it on my own, but they're just stuck in procrastination. How important is to have PR or to have a coach like yourself to guide them through the process? Because, working with you as an example, years of experience, a lot of successes along the way. How important it is to get a PR specialist because they've done the planning, but they're still afraid of taking that next step. How does one person able to just say, you know what, let's give this a crack and have that insight? Yeah, I think PR is the way for. I need PR help because most people don't. They don't utilize this service or use this type of benefit that's actually going to help their business.
Oh, my God, you're so right. Like marketing and PR is so undervalued by particularly the small business space. Those people who, solo entrepreneurs or maybe have one or two people and they've been doing really well with word of mouth, but that only gets you so far. Like today I saw a quote in a Facebook group with someone going, I don't want to promote myself or market myself. I just want to share with people what I do. And I went, well, that's kind of what marketing is and PR is. It's about communicating your message out to those who don't know about you. And I think for most people, look, there's lots of really free resources online that you can use on how to get started for PR. But I think it's always really valuable to even book an hour with a PR specialist and have a bit of a chat. So, like people like myself, they're highly trained at listening to what's being said by the person who's going, I really want to stop being the best kept secret, and being able to see the opportunities for different stories. Like I call it digging for story gold. You can sit there for an hour and I'll come back to you and go, here, you said all of these things, and have you thought about doing a story on this? Or it could, like an accountant. Okay, well, you could write a story about the end of financial year's tax, but why don't we write a story about the funniest reasons you've heard for not submitting your tax return on time? Show some personality, get some, little quirkiness in there that people can, who wants to read another article about how to get ready for tax time? Like, I just fell asleep thinking about it. So it's really hard to see what's right in front of you. And that's what happens in businesses. You're so focused on the doing, making sure your finances, the team's working, that, you're delivering what your clients or your customers are buying from you, that we don't work on our business. So sometimes taking that step away, getting someone in to have a bit of a helicopter view, opens up clarity and opens up imagination and opens up opportunities. And it's almost like uncorking a bottle, Jez, is that like you don't know until someone points the way for you that you actually have that information inside of you. And I actually think the best person to do PR for a business is the actual business person, because, they're the magic in the business. But, sometimes it just might need a little bit of push in the right direction, and that's where someone like me comes into play.
I think that's really important to have someone like yourself who's been in the industry for a very long time. You want to eliminate, and I know that you mentioned about, there are free resources out in the marketplace, but that's only going to get you further, right? But when you have someone who's actually been in the game, it actually gets you results more quicker. So so if, for example, if someone gets to engage with you as an example and they go through their PR journey and they start, promoting and start going through their content and getting their name out, you mentioned about business awards. Is that another step of expanding your influence and what you do? And does that also give that level of brandness around what you do? So like you're a subject matter expert because you've been awarded. What are the techniques or strategies that you use when someone comes in the journey with yourself? Because obviously there are different types of services, but you go through a journey and you're an expert at business awards. So what would be a step for them?
Well, business awards are almost like another feather in the marketing cap. It's another channel that you can use to build credibility and reputation and respect within the industry. I think the first thing to do if anybody's considering entering awards is make sure that whatever award they enter is reputable and credible, because there's a lot of, we live in the age of influencers where it's all about, what you look like and what you're dressing like and, looking like everyone else. So there's a lot of vanity in the marketplace at the moment. And there are a lot of awards out there that are counting on the fact that people are just looking for really quick, fast ways to be able to, put some smoke and mirrors out there and go, oh, look, I won an award, and they really haven't actually done anything. So do some research to find some credible awards that you enter so that, let's face it, most people wouldn't know from one award to the other whether it's credible or not, unless it was something, really big like a Stevie Award or a Telstra Award. Some of these smaller based location or chamber or, small business community awards can slip under the radar. So, asking questions, going to Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups and saying, hey, this is an award I'm looking at, or, you can come and ask me. I'd be more than happy to help you. And finding those really reputable ones. And then it's just a process of, again, it's come back to that really boring word, plan. That, be aware of when they are open, be aware of when they close, because I can tell you that from my side of the table here is the number of people who leave it to the last week. It's like, oh my God, can you help me? This award closes on 5 days time, and you're like going, geez, people, do you like living in stress? So planning that and understanding what their timeline is really, really important. And then the next important thing is getting awards ready is, collating. If you've been on podcasts, you can go use a really cool tool called Owltail, where you can type in your name and it just goes and searches the interwebs, and it brings back all of the links to all of the podcasts that you've been on. You can Google yourself and go and find articles that you've been in, or, you've been spoken about, or you've interviews on TV, or, any of those things that create that perception around building your profile. Start collating that stuff and saving it so that when an award does open, you've already got most of the information there ready to go, and you're not like fluffing around going, oh my God, I've got a week, I've got to go and find all of this stuff, because that's what stops a lot of people, is that there is no plan, there is no methodical action steps that they take to make sure that they're organised. So they get to then it's like, oh, I can't be bothered, it's too much hassle,
and
it's too hard.
And most people tend to think that. It's like, oh, it's too hard, I'm too late. And I like how you mentioned about planning. In terms of timeline, do you need to prepare like within 3 months, 6 months, in a year? Like, what's your rule of thumb?
Well, we work with clients to prepare 6 to 12 month plans for awards. So when we're talking about planning, we're going, okay, well, what's the most important thing we need to do for this client? And if it's awards, then what we do is we map them out over that 12-month period. It's like the Australian Small Business Champion opens today, the beginning of May. The Stevie Women in Business Awards opens on this date in May. This award opens in October. This award opens in there. And then we start that planning process. We go and gather the questions. We start working with the client way in advance of them opening, so that we can start gathering that information without the stress and without the hassle.
Wow.
So it's really important, you get to October, November, we're starting to wind down for the holiday season. It's a really good time to start, Googling and searching and finding and looking for awards, putting them into your calendar for the next year, and then reading the guidelines and what the criteria are, and start planning to win. Because, what's that NAF saying? Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Something like that.
That applies in business as well. So, taking the time to think in advance is really critical also to the quality of the actual submission. Because when you're doing something in a rush, your brain gets flustered. You don't always think of the right words, or you forget things that have happened in your business. But if you start planning in advance, you can start a Word document, and every time, I can go after this, I was on Jez Perez's podcast, May 11, 12, and then once you send me the link, I'll put the link in there. So when I enter an award, and one of my achievements will be, my goal this year was to speak on so and so many podcasts, is that I've got proof that that's what I did, because I can tangibly show those links, because I've been collecting them as I go.
So can I just ask, what are the indicators that you're ready to enter into a business award. I mean, there are a couple of requirements, guidelines, and it's always good to have someone on your corner who actually been there, done that, and knows the guidelines specifically to fast track your progress. And I'm looking at this now, and I'm seeing with freshness. I'm like, whoa, this is epic. And those who are listening to the podcast right now, we'll provide all the links on the show notes. And it's something that will not only, establish the subject matter expertise, but the branding and the opportunities. Just having like a Stevie Award, that is huge. A Telstra Award, that is significant. And for me to hear that, it's like, because a lot of people in businesses, whether you're small, medium, or large, they tend to think, well, it's really impossible because you're competing with others. But when I'm listening to what you're saying, not many people actually submit. It's only a few because they are planning ahead. They've got someone in the corner. So can I just ask, what are the indicators that they're actually ready to enter a business award and get engaged with a PR specialist such as yourself?
I think if you're always thinking about how you can better your business, how you can get more eyeballs on what you do, and that hunger for not being the best kept secret is the first indicator that you're ready to enter an award, is that you're going, I know there's got to be more that I can do to market my business. Another indicator is like, I think just asking the question. I mean, most people come to us to enter awards who like, oh, I'm not quite sure whether I'm ready to do this. Can we have a bit of a chat? And I think, if you've got some good, solid financial stats, not even like you don't even have to be turning over oodles of dollars in your business, but you can show that, you've been keeping track of how your business is growing. You might have started last week, but you've got a plan in place and, you've gradually been building, your client base, your financial base, that you keep great records. That's a great indicator that you're ready for a business award. And I think also too, another indicator that you're ready is that you are looking around at your competitors and you're seeing them winning awards and you're like, God damn it, I'm better than they are. Like I do better work, and it's almost that dissatisfaction as you watch what's going on around you, that you realize that you're holding yourself back and that it's time to stop that and have a go at doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because awards are one of the greatest self-reflection exercises in a business that you can do. When you go reading those questions and you realize you've got to dig a little bit deeper than, your features and benefits, you've got to talk about why your customer service is excellent or why you've had the growth that you've had. It really helps you, here's that word again, plan for the future, because you realize where the gaps are in your business.
Wow, there's a lot of insights and valuable nuggets there. I'm just speechless. I mean, like, I realize now how important it is. And I'm glad that we're having this podcast episode, particularly with how you can leverage successful stories, the hero's journey, but in utilizing that and having a plan ahead of time to actually, it is doable. It's just putting the work and putting those planning ahead again. So, for example, if you do enter and, they get a PR specialist such as yourself, and whether they win or they become like runner-up or even finalists in their category, what would be their next step? Do they need to plan ahead for a bigger award, or do they just expand what they currently have and then continue to go from there?
Oh my goodness, Jez, awards are a gift that keep on giving. Your listeners may or not know of a guy called Stephen Bradbury, who is a speed skater, and like 20 odd years ago, he was in the Olympics and he was the last man standing. So he won gold. You're literally the last man standing. He's a really nice bloke. I've met him a couple of times, but his story is so compelling because the message there is that from an awards perspective is 20 plus years later, he's still taking his gold medal around to speaking gigs and talk, that's what got him speaking gigs for a very long time. Wow. That he was an award winner. Like the Olympics is the ultimate sporting award, isn't it? So if you're a business and you've won an award or you've made the finals or you're a runner-up, that's a really good anchor to tell your story about the process, what you learn about the process, even just, the next day, as soon as you find out, is putting it out into your social media communities and saying, oh my goodness, I was the finalist in an award. Because, like, quite frankly, when people say I didn't expect to win, I believe them, because we all downplay our abilities and our skill and our genius to ridiculous levels below our kneecaps. So when you go out to your community, they want to champion you. Social media is the greatest cheer squad on the planet. It can be very damaging, but mostly people want to support you and encourage you.
Yeah.
And you just never, ever, ever know who is looking at that post. It could be your mother's best friend's cousin who works for an organisation that is looking for someone who does exactly what you do. You've posted about your award and they've gone, wow, this person knows what they're doing. And that happens all the time. In fact, this morning, one of my clients messaged me. She was a finalist in the Australian Accounting Awards this year. She got a message from a very large organisation asking if she would be on a panel because it was based on this post about her winning the award.
Wow.
So you can leverage it from that perspective. So whenever you're entering an award, is have a plan around what you're going to do about each phase of that award. So when you enter, share with people that you've entered the award. Again, back to that cheer squad. People, there's a real positive energy around people cheering you on. When you win, write a media release and put it out to your local media. Local media loves local business success stories. There's a lot of syndication services that you can, get your story syndicated to publications, like Fox News and CBS and NBC and ABC, that you can leverage and use that from a PR perspective. It's pretty impressive when someone goes, my story ran on Fox News. So again, back to the plan. If you're entering awards, is that you can continue to use them for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like Lauren and I are now, I think, it sounds very egotistical, I'm not quite sure, I've lost count. We're I think 4 times Grand Stevie Award winners.
Wow.
And we still talk about the first time that we won in 2018 because it was such a massive achievement on an international scale. Here's these 2 Aussie women, just 2 women, we don't have a big team behind us, but we beat out some of the biggest companies in the world to take the Grand Stevie out because of our commitment to our clients. So, and then you also asked about, can you use that award to roll into the next one? Absolutely. And this is where good filing comes into play. Is if you've got a folder on your computer where you keep all your award submissions, what we do is we suggest that people create an awards black box, a spreadsheet, something like that. Copy the questions across the tabs, put your responses for, every single award that you enter. And, after 2 or 3, you've actually got cut and paste answers that you can repurpose into another award. So it actually gets easier with time. The more awards you do, the more you do anything, it actually gets easier with time. But from an awards perspective, is keep all your responses. Again, I say to people, oh, can you send me the award submission that you entered for this one? They go, oh, I didn't keep it. It's like, keep that stuff. It's gold, absolute gold. Don't get rid of it, people. Keep it.
Wow. This is, again, looking in a different perspective because, I myself as a business owner and entrepreneur, and, that's something that I really aspire to. And to see that the possibilities, and I am also learning, ladies and gentlemen, those who are listening to this podcast show, I'm also learning as well. And I know you are listening and watching this podcast, how important is PR? How important is, to elevate your business to the next level is, awards, but it's, again, planning ahead, putting a goal, and this is a wonderful goal to have. I'm actually inspired and really motivated to take it to the next level. And, oh, man, I don't know what you've done to me, but Annette, you're amazing, to be honest. And thank you so much for adding. Yeah.
Just think about this: public relations, P and R. R is about relationships. You often go to networking groups and there's no one there representing PR, but it's such an important part of business. So that R for relationships is telling your stories is how we connect to people. And the piece for perception is that everything that we do online or we do marketing our business is about creating this story around our brand and our profile and our business that is attractive to people. Ideally, you want to do that with authenticity and with, genuineness. And when you do that and you combine them together, then you go, oh, maybe that's the missing link in my business, that why I'm not getting the customers or the clients that I really want is because no one actually knows who I am.
Yeah, and when they do, then it becomes unstoppable, to be honest. It's great to have those insights. However, you do need someone on your corner to actually guide you through the process, and I think that's really important. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing this right now, take my word for it. You need assistance. You need someone in your corner to actually guide you through the process and get some help, particularly in this PR space. I'm really blown away. So, Annette, I always ask this question to every guest that's on the show. I'm actually motivated myself now just by listening to this. What is your meaning of motivation without the hype, and how do you use motivation for your personal success?
Oh, look, I've always, which is funny given that I write awards, but I've always been a really quiet achiever. Like I put my head down, my bottom up.
Head down,
I get
thumbs
to
up.
work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
head down, bum up, and I work hard, and I finish things and I get it done. So I think for me, motivation is always keeping your eye on the goal, knowing where you want to go to, because when things get rough in the middle and you know where you're headed and you've got a plan and you understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then you can kind of look over all of that rubbish and go, you know what, I'm on track. This messiness is, just for the moment. It's not always going to be that way. So that's not something that you have to get out and go, yeah, look at me. It's just, head down, bum up's a really good way to explain motivation without hype. Head down, bum up. How do I use it?
Yeah.
I use it to inspire myself. I'm in my 50s now. I've grown up in a time where
Oh my goodness, done with 50.
I'm a 1970s baby, so I grew up in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, and the 70s and 80s weren't exactly kind to women. So I've lived my life by going, what can I do to prove these people wrong?
Yeah.
So that's always my motivation. Is it started off when I was a kid, being told that you're a girl, you can't do that. And it's like, well, you just watch me. Yeah. I'm going to do that. And now as an adult, I do the same thing. You say I can't do it. Well, I'm going to show you that I can. And I'm going to do it very quietly. And then there's going to be fireworks and, streamers and balloons at the end when I've done it. And I'm going to go, look at that. That's how you move forward.
Wow. Guys, you can do it. If Annette can do it, those who are listening, you can do it as well. Not only just to leverage successful stories, but also win business awards with guidance and help. And guys, you know what? Thank you so much, Annette. You're awesome, to be honest. And I'm so glad to have a fellow Aussie as well here in Queensland. And it's such a privilege to have you. And guys, for more information on how you want to get in touch with Annette, all the links are provided on the show notes. Please be sure to connect with her and also follow her as well. It's on the website, audacious.com, theaudaciousagency.com. And if you put a / on awards, everything's all there. And also, please follow her and subscribe to them as well as Facebook. So, if this episode has been helpful and uplifting, we'd love for you to write a review to inspire more listeners to get plugged in. We will continue to provide high-value content in each and every episode. If you don't mind sharing this podcast show on social media by inviting others, it would mean the world to me. Every time you tag me or tag us, we will get the opportunity to share those posts, and together we can make a difference in the lives of others through inspirational messages and episodes just like this. So there you have it. In closing, continue to unleash your greatness and tell yourself that I can, I will, and I must, and we'll see you on the next episode.